This is a short one and a pretty minor one. My first game was as a dungeon master, and I was too lazy to look up a low-level stat block, so I used Roll20 to fill things out using guesswork. I made most of the enemies do little damage, except for the head honcho, who had a big attack I really wanted to be unlikely to hit, though I misunderstood to hit as in order to hit. So instead of the large penalty to the move's accuracy I intended, it was instead a huge amount of damage at plus 20 to hit, while the minions had plus 10 to plus 13 to their attacks.
Yeah, no way.
Safe to say, the encounter did not go the party's way. Thankfully, I had the tact to let the party reason with the bad guys, instead of just butchering them. Obviously, you made a mistake here, and learning the fundamentals of the game is important, but god, this whole plus 10 to hit, plus 20 to hit thing, sometimes I feel like the monsters in Baldur's Gate 3 have that ability, because by god,
Do these guys ever miss?
I've been binging your videos and thought about this in real life experience. So far, my only one. Fingers crossed one day I will be able to play in real life without this. I joined a meetup group for local board gaming. Excited because most IRL stuff is either for kids here or in the city, which is a drive for me. The premise seems cool. It was a big dungeon crawl, and while there were probably like 7 sessions in deep, it was more of a drop-in, drop-out kind of game. I'm all excited. I crafted up an artificer elf and made my mini. For additional context that might be important later, I specifically asked the dungeon master and shared the sheet. If it was okay, I picked artificer as I know some don't allow / enjoy the class, which is completely fine. He says yes, so I go about the lead up to the game thinking, I'm all good. He's even flexible in changing venue because I have a severe cat allergy and he has cats, so I suggest a public library. This is all great, and I thank him for being so flexible. The day comes, me and one other person are the 2 newbies at the table. Everyone else is newer to 5th edition, but this has been a campaign since the start. Not a problem, I think. Wrong. This is the vibe of the game. I have to last minute change classes as the dungeon master decides artificer is too OP, even though he'd seen the sheet beforehand and both aware that I was new to the game and we were described at low level. Okay, fine, whatever, I think. I just roll up a rogue, which is annoying because of the beforehand prep, but again, whatever. We wait for 2+ hours for one guy to show up because he has the other minis and... Hold on, rewind. 2+ hours? Like, at least in my games, we play Minecraft all the way. Dang. Oh, you. No one said it was a relaxing way to wait. Anyway, that guy we're waiting for, he has the other minis and seemed to be the only person with the most know-how compared to the dungeon master. This guy spent most of the time trying to convince us he can make whatever he wants because he has 3D printed stuff, so we could just shout if we needed anything, which was very frustrating. I spent the entire session helping the guy sitting next to me who'd been there for the entire campaign playing his own character. I'm fine with helping out like, oh hey, you could use this here, that's a thing you have sometimes, but I was doing this the whole session. It wasn't particularly game related, but the dungeon master was really focused on the fact that the girls in the study room next to us were changing and hadn't closed the blinds. Like, okay, my guess is they took a hoodie off or something, but this dude just kept mentioning it.
Dude, I'm changing.
Great, I'm gonna tell all my friends. Overall, it was definitely tame compared to some of the other stories in the series, but I needed to get it out, I guess. Have a nice day. You too, man. Look, I love a guy with a good 3D printer, but, you know, if you got a 3D printer, you don't need to mention it every single sentence. I know people who are exactly like that, not just with 3D printing, but with all sorts of different niche skills or tools, and yeah, it gets annoying after a while. Please find a personality beyond the tools or skills at your disposal. Beyond that, the biggest D&D thing here is the DM's last-minute banning of artificers. I've actually experienced this firsthand. I wanted to play my own artificer in a game, and the dungeon master was not exactly happy that I was really excited about all the spells I could pick and tried to convince me that I wouldn't be able to use all the spells because I'm not going to be able to find spell components, and that was the moment I realized I'm not going to join this game. Look, if you want to make the call to ban artificers, that's okay. Genuinely. I mean, I'm going to believe that you're not a very good dungeon master if you can't balance around artificers. I'm sorry, that's the truth. But still, it's your call to make, it's your game. However, you need to make that call way before session 1. God, I hope this isn't a roleplay heavy game because I can't imagine showing up to a session. I have a character in hand, and the DM bans them right at session 1, and I gotta rebuild everything from scratch. I mean, at least it gives me something to do while I'm waiting for that one guy for 2 hours, right? This horror story was an amalgam of problems, but it has a mild ending. I tried to cut out minor details, but this is still pretty long. English is my first language, but my language skills are also crap, so I apologize if this is hard to read. The cast: myself as the barbarian, Wizard is the problem player, Monk is the problem player, the DM is also a bit of a problem, and the cleric is just someone who's way smarter than me. 2 years ago, I got obsessed with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I bought 5 dice sets, read the rulebooks, and binged D&D videos in my spare time. But I also worked the night shift and didn't know any local TTRPG groups in my area, so I decided to search for a group online and found an LFG server on Discord. I applied for an ongoing play-by-post campaign and got invited onto a private server by the Dungeon Master. Based on our private messages, he seemed very new to DMing and was non-confrontational. Still, he was very eager to share about his setting and showed me a half-finished homebrew world that he drew by hand. He seemed pretty nice, and we talked about what kind of character I would make. I was told we were starting at level 3 and needed a tank, so I went with a variant human totem barbarian. She grew up in a tiny, tribal hamlet and had strong druidic connections, and had a short fuse when it came to selfish behavior, which is foreshadowing. The region around her home became a territorial dispute between a green dragon and a copper dragon, and they trampled her hamlet while they fought. Her homelessness made her wander towards civilization and met Wizard and Monk at a tavern, but of course, and we decided to call ourselves the High Wind Party. The Wizard was a dysfunctional mess. He played a deep-known evocation wizard and had a +4 intellect mod, but he only had one attack spell, which was Ice Knife, not even an attack cantrip, but he did have True Strike.
True Strike is the worst cantrip in 5e.
But it's literally, in every sense of the word, a
An attack now, and then roll an attack next turn. This is terrible.
You know, with everyone never shutting up about it, you'd think people would know better. Worse, he was insistent on fighting in melee, despite being a wizard, having a +0 con mod, +0 strength mod, and +1 to dex. He had a +1 short sword, but he didn't have proficiency for it, so he missed a lot.
The might of the elements is mine to command! Oh my god!
Is that all you've got, man? You don't have any sort of spells?
I don't need spells to defeat you. I have my blade. But wait, actually, that is a good point.
Oh, see? What was that?
I cast True Strike.
Okay, cool. What does that do?
It's gonna let me hit you easier.
Alright, so you're gonna attack me?
No, I have to wait.
What are you waiting on? Are you waiting on me to, like, take a piss or something? What's up?
No, I have to wait till you take your turn. And then after that, then I can make my attack action. And then that one time, I kind of have a more likely chance to hit you with my weapon.
So, what, I can attack you now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Oh, you down already?
I only have 7 hit points.
He had a letter from a monarch in his home city, and he had to deliver it to a noble in another town. I never saw who this monarch was, or what value the letter had. The monk was more competent, a tiefling monk rogue multi-class who was built into Dex, Con, and Wisdom accordingly. He was reclusive, and hid his features, and drew both in-game and IRL as a hobby. Just a misunderstood soul who wanted to belong somewhere. I had some fun roleplay with him, and I didn't notice his problems until we got to the first dungeon. Before said dungeon, we were hired to escort a caravan and its single guard from one town to the next. Sounded simple enough. We were then attacked by 5 bandits on the road, with their leader wielding a Vorpal longsword. You know, the kind that causes instant decapitation on a nat 20. We didn't even have a cleric yet. Not that it would have mattered at level 3. Still, as the barbarian, I decided to take on the bandit leader, while the wizard and monk engaged the others. I actually managed to steal the sword from the bandit with a contested athletics check and forced him to retreat to a non-magical flail. But with the wizard going into melee, the fight went south, and he was rapidly stabbed by 3 bandits. So what did the Dungeon Master do? Did he have the bandits hold the wizard hostage? Did he have the bandits kill the wizard and push for a TPK? No, he pulled a Deus Ex Machina, had the caravan guard sprout angel wings and pull out some magic swords. The DMPC then flew into the air and used her swords to kill a bandit from 20 feet away, and then stabbed through my barbarian to attack the bandit leader from 40 feet away. Apparently they were whip-like swords with a 60-foot-long reach and lightning damage. I got pissed and called out the DM's BS. I said that I felt like my barbarian's presence didn't actually matter, especially since she got backstabbed for trying to defend the caravan in the first place. Had the DM doubled down, I would have quit then and there. Instead, the Dungeon Master retconned and had the DMPC butcher the other bandits while the party focused on the bandit leader. We dropped him to 0 hit points, but we couldn't kill him. We could only knock him unconscious. Could we try to interrogate him? No, because he was unconscious, and we had no way to heal him. Could we tie him up and wait until he woke up? No, because this mysterious darkness then showed up out of nowhere and abducted the bandit leader. Could we pursue this darkness? Nope, it just disappeared. So we were forced to move along, and we're told that this DMPC was not supposed to reveal her true powers until much later in the campaign. Thus, we should keep quiet about it to preserve her reputation. Oh, and the Vorpal longsword I stole got downgraded to a +1 longsword for balance reasons. No lore or in-game explanation. The DM just said it would be impossible to balance around it. Well then, why have the bandit leader have it at all? Great question. This combat was already rough with the DMPC just jumping in and the DM needing to retcon because they clearly didn't think of how this combat would go with this angel Deus Ex Machina. But on top of that, why are you giving a bandit a Vorpal sword? I mean, on top of the fact that a bandit leader with a Vorpal sword could insta-kill a party member, which is just never fun to deal with, what did you expect to happen when the party tried to loot the dang thing? Did you expect them to ignore it? Also, the Shadow kidnapping the bandit leader is such a masterful way to completely take away player agency. Just great job there. I know I just did a whole video where I said player agency is not more important than having fun, but here, no one's having fun and no one has agency. Pro move, DM. Pro move. In the next town, we met the cleric at a local church. I wager this happened because the DM saw the wizard was getting the crap beaten out of him, even though the party had a tank, me. Thus, he pressed our 4th player to be a healer, a goblin life cleric who was raised by the clergy. She was taught to help the sick and needy as the clergy had done for her. She was still a bit of a gremlin though, and used the sleeve of the head priest as a handkerchief when she got emotional about leaving with the party. She probably would have been a joy to be around. Anyway, our first dungeon wasn't far from the cleric's town, and was where the problems from our DM, wizard, and monk escalated. We were informed that the dungeon had a secret entrance hidden by an illusion spell. After some investigation checks, we found a spot where our hands phased through the topsoil and began to discuss using a rope to lower ourselves down to whatever this place was. The monk just dive-bombed through the illusion, Leroy Jenkins style.
Guardian down.
He fell 30 feet but didn't take any damage because he landed on top of black pudding. Panic ensued, but once we realized there was a ladder, we all just climbed down to pelt the ooze to death. After that, there was a puzzle in the first room. It was a kind of board game, but I can't recall what it was all about. All I could remember was the cleric and I were engaged in the intellectual challenge, but not the wizard or monk for some reason. I think we won, which caused the door to unlock. However, it also caused poisonous gas to leak from the table, forcing us to move forward. The next room had some jail cells with a tied-up NPC in one of them. I decided to carry the NPC over my shoulders and would shield them with my body if I had to. The jail room also had a magically locked door to the south and an unlocked door to the west. The monk tried to pick the south door with thieves' tools but was unsuccessful. So the wizard cast Misty Step through the keyhole to get to the other side. No one else could follow him, and the door was locked from the other side. Rather than waste another spell slot to return to the party, the wizard decided to meander off and explore a part of the dungeon all by himself. The squishy gnome with 1 attack spell and common or melee skills splits from the party. Maybe there was a different route where we could reunite with him? So the rest of the party went west, and the dungeon master moved with the wizard to a private channel. We then find an armory and encounter 2 sets of animated armor, an animated shield, and an animated sword. Because the poison gas continued to build up in the rooms behind us, we had to fight them head on. What was Monk's first move? He disengaged, ran behind the enemies, or rather, just ran away entirely. He bolted into a hallway, into another room, and then just started looting a chest in the middle of combat. The animated sword pursued him, but that still left the cleric and I against 3 tanky foes. After 2 rounds, the DM warned us that the flammable gas was right behind us. flammable? You mean poisonous, right? Apparently, it was just both. I told the cleric to take the NPC into the hallway and check how strong the door was, and it was made of metal. I then dropped a lit torch, ran over to join him, and barricaded the door with my body. I already see where this is going. This baffled the dungeon master, and he had to make several rolls. He then told us that a massive explosion shook the entire dungeon.
Told ya!
I was then dropped to single digits as fire bursted from the edge of the door, and only because I was a bear totem barbarian. On the other side, the animated gear and the rest of the armory was reduced to slag. After that, we confronted the monk. He insisted he didn't try to leave us behind, somehow, and offered a javelin of lightning and a wand of magic missile he found as compensation. But Cleric had enough. She believed this party was a complete mistake and left to return to her church as an in-game excuse to leave the campaign. I went back to town with her as we still had an NPC to save, and I didn't trust the monk to not ditch us again. The monk decided to split the party again and ventured further into the dungeon without us. After that, the cleric not only left the server, but deleted her entire Discord account. I don't know why I stuck around, hence why I wasn't so smart, but the DM soon told me the wizard and monk both died in that dungeon. Something about, I don't know, action economy, which wasn't surprising. What was surprising was them coming back in-game to complain about me abandoning them. Deus Ex Machina, again, the wizard had his body hauled out of the dungeon by a mystery woman and got resurrected by the local church. The monk met this brooding raven-like god after death and promised his servitude for his own resurrection. I must return to the mortal realm. You can if you become my champion, but I must know the reason, so I can call our barbarian a bitch. Last year, I became the dungeon master for some of my friends. Scheduling issues aside, I think we enjoyed our own homebrew campaign a lot more. My first D&D experience had taught me a lot about bad DM decisions and what signs to look out for. Unfortunately, it seems like the universe is hell-bent on making sure I never forget. I've never told this story to the party, the new one I'm DMing for, but they have also decided to call themselves the High Wind Party. So this is likely to haunt me for many months to come. Man, there is Unoptimized, and then there is this. Look, not every player character needs to be perfectly optimized. And hell, characters like this, they might fit into some campaigns, but you do need to make characters that, like I said, fit into the campaign that you're playing. And that's not what these guys did. Not only are the characters really, really criminally underpowered, but on top of that, they're just not played in a way that's very smart. This all comes off as new player, new DM syndrome. We have a DM who clearly doesn't know how to balance encounters and has a very draconian way of fixing it, like throwing in angel DMPCs, and we have players who just have really crappy decision-making skills in combat and are not used to playing the game as a team. All these things are not exactly great for playing a game, but these are behaviors that you can grow out of. I think all of us have experienced this at some point. We've been that dungeon master who didn't balance an encounter properly. We've been that player who made a really completely idiotic decision in combat. It happens, but what matters is you learn and grow. I know you're expecting me to roast people, but I don't know. I guess I'm feeling nice today. So this happened a handful of months ago near the end of a Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign I was running. I want to preface this whole story by saying everyone involved is a close friend of mine. We sorted this out the following evening. Everything is fine. This was just a case of everyone not being on their best behavior. Everyone is as follows. By the way, spoilers for Rime of the Frost Maiden ensue. Anyway, me as the DM, cleric, warlock, blood hunter, bard. I don't remember if she's relevant to this story, but I'm mentioning her, just in case. The party had gotten about halfway into the module's final chapter, and we were exploring the tower of a demi-lich, who once ruled over an ancient city, now buried beneath the ice. In one of the first major areas of the town, there was a smaller room branching off that contained a magic item called Dude, who comes up with Abracadabras? Abracadabras? That wasn't that bad. Most of my players, aside from Blood Hunter, are totally new to tabletop role-playing games, and this was their first campaign. So I decided to make the Abracadabras sentient and explain what it does to the party in a silly little voice. For context, an Abracadabras is a small magical chest. While it is closed, someone can ask it for something non-magical, worth no more than 1 gold piece. Any money it creates disappears within minutes, and spood foils within 24 hours if not eaten. Warlock spends half of its charges asking for bonbons, and we all get a laugh out of that. A couple other things are requested of the box, and I don't remember what they were, but Cleric made an absolutely ludicrous request. Now, our group is no stranger to edgy humor. We avoid anything that involves punching down in other groups, but aside from that, anything's fair game for us. Cleric then asks me about the perceived value of a gold piece in the Forgotten Realms, and I forgot what I said, but whatever it was, it prompted Cleric to ask for a petrified cow fetus. Did anyone who designed this thing foresee that anyone would abuse its capabilities?
Alright, sir, I just finished checking through some base rules. It looks like Rime of the Frost Maiden is ready for release. Is there anything else you want to add before we hit that button? Well, before we finalize, I was hoping to add something from my personal notes. An abracadabras. Well, what is that? An abracadabras is a magical chest that will give you one item, any item worth 1 gold piece. It'll be a great role-playing opportunity for players. I mean, that sounds really cool. Could be fun for the players to mess with. I mean, I don't see why we can't. All right then, let's finalize.
2 seconds later.
Oh crap. What is that? It's the They Made It Weird alarm, sir. The They Made It Weird alarm? How'd they make it weird? It's a box that gives you loot. It's a loot box. The guys at Blizzard said everybody loves those. Well, sir, it looks like they are requesting items from the chests that are not appropriate for all games. Items like what? Like this. Ooh. Yeah. Yep, sir. That is a dildo. Okay, I get the picture. Is there anything we can do about this? Not really. Looks like we just need to sit back and let this play out. You're right. Oh, dang. Looks like someone ordered a petrified cow fetus. What does that even mean?
The rest of us had that kind of shocked, taken aback laugh, including myself. Despite my discomfort, I was still role-playing the abracadabras, trying to say something like that would be worth more than 1 gold piece, and wouldn't be able to produce that for you. Cleric and I, still role-playing a magic item, went back and forth on this. Warlock joined in too because he thought it would be funny. Eventually I, still not explicitly voicing the fact that I wasn't comfortable role-playing this request, instead opted for a more authoritarian approach. I raised my voice and said, "I am God, and God says that what you're asking for is worth more than 1 gold piece." Basically just throwing my quote-unquote weight as the DM, trying to shut the scene down altogether. Cleric didn't take kindly to this response, saying that I escalated too quickly by proclaiming divinity the way I did. I agreed with him, since before jumping the gun like that, we had been keeping this disagreement strictly in character, still arguing the gold value, rather than just saying how I felt. I then allowed the scene with the cow to happen, and it was very hastily roleplayed to get it over with. Later, when the session was over, I apologized to the group and plainly said I was uncomfortable with Cleric's request and didn't know how to properly say no. I thought I'd be breaking immersion or something by talking above game. Cleric was chill and said he totally would have rescinded his request if I had communicated that better, and he and Warlock apologized for making me feel uncomfortable. We're all still good friends, and we're getting ready to run the Fool's Gold module as our second campaign together. See, right there. That is what we absolutely love to see here at Crispy's Tavern. Just this past Wednesday, we talked about communication over things you're not comfortable with, and that video mostly focused on Session 0. However, here, we see what you need to do when Session 0 eventually doesn't work out for you. You need to talk above table sometimes. Look, breaking immersion, that's not the best thing ever, but do you know what's way worse than broken immersion? Feeling deeply uncomfortable during your free time. Look, the cleric's request is way out there, but it's nothing to the point where I'm gonna kick him out of the game. Of course, I myself would also be uncomfortable with somebody requesting such a thing. But the solution is not to take it in-game and try to role-play through it. The solution is often to just rip the band-aid off and say, look, I'm not comfortable with this. And here, we see a group that respects that. That is key here. It goes both ways. This is what we love to see from a group. People actually working together to make the game more fun for everyone and fixing problems. Whew. You have some good eggs, my friend. Okay, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Q and Play series where we answer your questions in a rambling unscripted format while playing some video games. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down into the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Certainly not min-maxing, to let me know you made it to the end of the episode. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, then that's like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.
It fell. I knew from the creaking noises.